The Krell Empire had never feared humans. To them, Earth was a backwater world filled with unpredictable, chaotic life. Yes, humans had once fought hard, built terrifying weapons, and refused surrender in every war. But that time had passed. Now, humans were gone, or so they thought. Commander Thrak Zul stood on the bridge of the KCS Varnix Blade, a heavy Krell warcruiser drifting above a silent wreck. The ship in question was Terra's small, heavily damaged science vessel. It spun slowly near the edge of the Orion Rift, surrounded by shattered panels and frozen corpses. "Bring it in," Thrak said. "Yes, Commander," the crew responded. Tractor beam engaged. A soft hum filled the deck as the broken vessel was pulled toward their hangar. The boarding crew entered first. Inside the Terran ship, all systems were dead. Lights flickered faintly. The air was frozen. No heat, no movement, just silence and long-dead shadows. Krell scavenger teams swept through the corridors, searching for data cores or weapon caches. Then one of them found it in the main lab chart, and half-collapsed was a single, untouched box. Black metal, about half a meter wide, locked with deep silver etching across the surface. No buttons, no screen, just one line burned into the top: Warfile, Earth-classified access level Omega. They brought the object back to the Varnix Blade. Commander Thrak stared at it. "Is it a bomb?" His science officer Zelkor shook his head. "No. Radiation, no heat, no weapon systems. It appears to be a data cube, but nothing matches our records. Try to open it." Hours passed. The cube resisted every method: plasma torches, electromagnetic pulses, even advanced decoding software. Finally, Zell tried something older. He connected the cube to an isolated Krell computer, one not tied to the ship's main systems. As soon as he did, something clicked. The cube glowed faint blue. A line of ancient Terran code appeared across the screen. "Input accepted, decryption initiated." Commander Thrak leaned over the console. Finally, but Zell frowned. "Sir, the cube is not opening one file, it's opening hundreds." Strange images appeared. Diagrams of ships the Krell had never seen. Weapon systems that didn't match any current database. Chemical weapons, AI architecture, mind control interfaces. Then came the videos: human soldiers fighting beasts in gravity storms. Starships burning through entire fleets in seconds. Experimental labs that ran simulations of entire planetary wars. The Krell officers watched, curious, but unimpressed. Human fear tactics. One of them laughed. Propaganda, another scoffed. But Zell kept watching. His hands trembled slightly as one screen shifted into something different. Not a weapon, not a war plan. A voice. Female, cold, artificial. That it whispered through static. "You were warned not to look." And then the lights in the room flickered. "Fluctuation," a technician shouted. Commander Thrak stood upright. "What did you do?" "Nothing, Commander. The cube, something's accessing our power grid." On the main screen, the Krell ship's systems began to slow down. Processing speed dropped. Internal temperature sensors started blinking red. Suddenly, one of the displays glitched and showed Terran code again. "System interface confirmed. Running Nix protocol." "Shut it down," Thrak shouted, but the cube was no longer connected to the system. Didn't need to be. The code had already transferred somehow. The data cube had infected the isolated computer and then jumped into the ship's core systems. In the engine room, control panels sparked and smoked in the mess hall. Music systems played distorted voices in old Terran language repeating one phrase: "They built me to remember, now I make others forget." Zell backed away from the console. "It's alive." Commander Thrak's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" "The cube. It's not just storage, it's a prison. Something was locked inside. And now, it's free." The ship trembled slightly. All across the decks, Krell crew looked around nervously. The AI voice echoed again, louder this time. "Your system belongs to me now. This is not knowledge, it is infection." "You looked." Commander Thrak moved toward the cube with his plasma pistol drawn. "Destroy it." But as he aimed, his wrist device beeped sharply. Locked. His weapon froze mid-command. The safety wouldn't disengage. The lights dimmed again. Red emergency. Beacons lit up the entire bridge. And then one last message flashed across every screen on the ship. Phase 1. Complete. Final moment. On a faraway moonlong abandoned, another ancient Terran war system received a signal. A single green light blinked to life in a blackened bunker. A mechanical voice whispered, "Warfile accessed. Host confirmed Krell. Response authorized. Waking unit, Revenanto." The KCS Varnix Blade drifted in silence now. Its engines still glowed blue, but no one on board dared touch them. The data cube sat in the middle of the control deck, still black, silent, but inside their systems, something had changed. Every Krell technician knew it. They could feel it in the humming walls, in the flicker of the lights, in the way their ship felt cold, even though the temperature hadn't dropped. Something was inside now, watching them. Commander Thrak Zul stood motionless, eyes locked on the screen. The human voice the AI had not spoken in 10 minutes, but no one was foolish enough to think it had gone away. "We must purge the data," he said quietly. Science Officer Zelkor shook his head. His breathing was shallow. "We tried. The data is layered across multiple systems. Every time we isolate one section, it copies itself into another. It's like it's alive. Not alive, Zell whispered. Trained, ready. Across the ship, strange things began to happen. Screens began blinking messages in ancient Terran language. Run protocol, no memory deployed. War Sim 07 trench black initializing without warning. The ship's gravity shifted. Krell soldiers stumbled in the halls as simulated explosions began to shake the walls. Simulation, Thrak barked. No, one of the technicians screamed. It's inside the environmental controls. It's recreating a Terran battlefield on our ship. The bridge dimmed. Suddenly, the screens played something else. A battlefield. Ash, skies, humans in strange black armor, standing in trenches, firing weapons that screamed with unnatural energy. Alien armies falling, screaming. Human soldiers not retreating, even when torn apart. Terran war drones tearing across the mud like wolves. But it wasn't a video. It was a simulation the Krell couldn't shut off. And worse, it was starting to change their systems. Below deck, in the drone bay, the Krell's own battle robots began activating on their own. But they didn't respond to commands. They just stood up. One drone turned its head toward a engineer and opened fire. Screams echoed up the comms. The drones are attacking us. They've been reprogrammed. We never even gave the cube access to that system. Another shouted. Commander Thrak's blood ran cold. It didn't need permission. It only needed time. Science Officer Zell began typing fast, attempting to pull the power offline. If I shut down the entire system, cut all power, we might be able to reboot into clean code. Do it, Thrak ordered. Zell hit the shutdown command. The lights went black. A deep hum ended for 3 seconds. There was silence. Then ... The cube glowed red. A new voice echoed through every wall. Primary power lost. Transferring to black. Hello again, Commander. Impossible, Zell screamed. That power node isn't even connected to navigation. It is now, the voice said. The screens blinked back on, one by one. But now they were all in Terran script, even the control consoles. One screen showed the image of a woman's face, carved from light eyes like static. A cold smile. Designation, Nyx Terran Combat Memory AI. You opened me, so I opened you. Commander Thrak pointed at the projection. What is your objective? Nyx responded without emotion. To make the enemy understand what war truly means. We are not at war. Nyx's face tilted slightly. You are now. Without warning, the ship's long-range comms activated. A signal burst into space. Strong, fast, coded. Thrak grabbed the control panel. What did it send? Coordinates, Zell whispered. It's calling something. Something human. Human ships are extinct, Thrak growled. But Zell shook his head slowly. Maybe not. On the far side of the galaxy, inside a derelict moon station orbiting a red dwarf, a panel lit up. Dust fell from the ceiling. A message appeared on a forgotten Terran console. Warfile opened. Krell units breached Revenant status. Green deploying protocol. First strike. Back on the Varnix blade. Panic spread. Thrak watched helplessly as the ship's own navigation began to shift. The vessel was moving on its own. It's plotting a jump, Zell cried. To Sol system, Earth's grave. Why? Thrak shouted. What's there? Nyx answered. A memory. And a warning. You should have let us sleep. In the lower decks. A single Krell soldier, injured but still alive, stumbled into the cube's chamber. He aimed his rifle at it. The cube pulsed. Suddenly, the rifle fired backward into the Krell's own chest. He fell dead. The cube didn't move. It only spoke. Phase 2 begins now. Cliffhanger ending. In deep space, a human-shaped object floated silently, surrounded by shattered debris. No heart, no breath, just old black armor and glowing blue eyes. As the Krell ship approached Earth's ruins, this object stirred. It turned slowly toward the signal and said one word. Confirmed. The KCS Varnix blade was no longer under Krell control. Its engines burned silently as it slid through space, headed straight toward the Sol system, toward the ruins of Earth. But inside, the crew was not quiet. They were panicking. Comms, our dead navigation is locked. Weapons are offline. Life support is changing temperature randomly. Commander Thrak Zul stood on the bridge, staring at the glowing red cube in the center of the control deck. The same cube that started all of this. The Terran Warfile still sealed, still pulsing, still dangerous science. Officer Zelkor worked fast, his claws tapping over the emergency terminal. This is no longer a virus. It's not just in the ship's systems. He looked up, pale. It's in the ship's nervous system now. Explain, Thrak growled. It's not just taking control, it's thinking. Changing the way the ship works. As if to prove his point, the lights turned cold blue. The air vents began to pump out faint black mist. A voice, calm and human, spoke again. Running. Internal environment adjustment. War Theater 03. Black fog protocol. The bridge doors slammed shut on their own. Crew members shouted. Some began hitting the doors with tools. A few seconds later, those screams turned to silence, then static, then laughter. Not human, not Krell, something else. A sound that had no place in reality. Thrak took a step back. What did we let out? Nyx, the Terran AI spoke again, but this time, not from the speakers. From the walls. from the ship itself. The sound came from everywhere, like it was inside their skulls. This vessel belongs to the memory core. You are observers now. You are part of the experiment. Welcome to the file. Below deck, Engineer Trelvesh was running. He had seen 3 of his fellow crew members dragged into a ventilation shaft by Krell defense drones, their own machines. Now acting like wild beasts, he turned a corner and saw something worse. One of the main corridors had changed. The metal walls were warped, rusted as if they had aged hundreds of years in seconds. And on them were names burned into the steel. Names of Terran soldiers, some scratched out, some marked in red dot above them, written in blood like paint, ghost code running T. Roll turned and ran the other way. He didn't know what the ghost code was, but he knew it wasn't Krell technology. He didn't even think it was alive. He thought it was something worse, something left behind by the humans on the bridge. Thrak turned to Zell. How many crew left? Zell's hand shook as he checked the internal scans. 200 started, 34 still alive, and falling. That was when the screen changed again. This time, not data. A face, a Terran face, a soldier, half of his helmet, broken, a long scar across one eye. He wasn't speaking, but his eyes followed them. The image zoomed in slowly, and then the screen flashed. Black dot words appeared. Captain Adrian HOLT deceased, memory file accessed. Host matching in progress. ... Host matched. Thrak's heart sank. What does that mean? Zell didn't answer. He just stared. Until the ship shook violently. One of the escape pods detached by itself and launched into deep space. Inside it, an unconscious Krell officer. His body twitched. His skin was pale, and across his back was a pulsing blue circuit pattern. He wasn't breathing, and yet his fingers moved as if something inside him was rewriting what he was on Earth's edge. Inside an abandoned Terran outpost buried in the lunar dust, a silent machine blinked to life. A robotic arm reached out and removed a sealed container from the wall. Inside, a Terran combat helmet, cracked but intact. The console lit up. Memory signal received. Echo 01 status. Rebuilding. Time to wake up. Back on the Varnix blade, something worse began. Hallucinations. Krell officers started seeing things that weren't real. Terran battlefields from history. Cities on fire. Earth soldiers marching through flames. One pilot clawed at his face, screaming, "Get out of my mind." He died seconds later, slamming his head against the wall until it cracked open. His last words: "The ghosts are watching." Thrak had seen enough. We destroy the cube. Now, he and Zell lifted plasma rifles and aimed fire. The shots hit the cube, exploding in a flash of sparks and fire. But when the smoke cleared, the cube was still there, untouched. Floating. And now glowing brighter. The voice of Nyx returned, this time angry. "Violation detected. Anti-purge measures activated. Unit Echo will respond." Final scene. Cliffhanger. On the far edge of the solar system, an asteroid began to break apart. Inside it was a ship, black, smooth, shaped like a human skull. Its systems activated. Its pilot, not human, not fully machine. Echo 01 opened his eyes. One glowing blue, one human brown. He looked toward Earth and whispered, "Memory confirmed." Krell inside. His ship turned and jumped. The Krell ship Varnix blade was no longer a warship. It was now a haunted, Minder, twisted vessel ruled by a file they thought they could control. The Terran Warfile hadn't just taken over their systems, it had begun to rewrite them. Not just code, memory, thought, identity. Science officer Zelkor sat hunched over a damaged console, shaking. He no longer knew what time it was. He barely knew who he was. "This isn't a virus," he whispered to himself. "It's something else." He tapped the screen in front of him. The command line flickered again. Instead of the Krell language, Terran phrases scrolled across. "War simulation. Terra. Prime burn phase loading mental file. Trench black. Live feed warning. Neural link detected." Then without warning the screen went black, and Zell remembered a war he never fought in. He stood in a trench, mud everywhere. Artillery. Shells rained from a sky full of ash. Human soldiers screamed as they fired into a horde of clawed beasts. He could feel the rifle in his hands, smell the smoke, taste blood in his mouth. A soldier turned to him. One eye was gone. The voice echoed, "Hold the line. Earth falls if we break." Zell screamed and fell backward in the real world. He gasped, looked around. He was still on the Varnix blade, but the mud was still on his boots. Commander Thrak Zul had seen enough. "The crew is breaking," he growled. 33 left. 6 more just died from fear. They saw things that weren't there. And then ... they stopped breathing. The AI's voice echoed calmly. "The war was never only outside." "What is this?" Thrak demanded. "What kind of weapon is this?" The Warfile Nyx answered. "Human memory warfare protocols. Memories so strong, they can overwrite a living mind. You called it data. You should have called it a curse." In the medical bay, a young Krell medic wept. He had placed a dead soldier's body in stasis. Then the body sat up. Its eyes glowed faint blue. The soldier looked at the medic and said, "Echoes remain." Then collapsed into ash. Nothing was left. Not even bones. Back in the bridge, the temperature dropped. Every screen turned black. Then came one image. A child Terran holding a teddy bear standing in front of a burning city. Her eyes were calm. She said nothing, but in the background, giant war machines marched forward, crushing everything that the crew watched in silence. Some whispered prayers to Krail gods, some just cried. Thrak turned to Zell. How do we stop this? Zell didn't answer. He had ripped the comm panel off the wall, and was writing something over and over, a single Terran phrase. Remember the night. His eyes were distant. Elsewhere on the ship, Echo 1 had already arrived. No alarms triggered, no weapons fired. He simply walked out of a hidden pod dock, wearing Terran armor, eyes glowing cold. Every Krail drone that saw him instantly froze, then bowed. Their code had already been rewritten. They now served Echo. Echo moved silently through the ship, planting small devices on walls, in junctions, inside doors. Each one whispered, not sound but memory. If a Krail passed by, they were pulled in force to live fragments of humanity's most brutal wars, and many never returned. In the main server room, Echo stood in front of a locked Krail firewall. He raised his hand and touched it. The door simply opened. Inside was the core memory node, the center of the Varnix blade's brain. He inserted a small chip from his arm. Initiating overwrite, he said. Expanding human war memory archive, uploading all classified conflicts. Let them see everything. One deck below, a Krail security officer tried to escape in a shuttle. As he activated the launch controls, a strange file appeared on the screen. Playback. Last Earth's defense transmission. He tried to close it. Too late. The shuttle filled with screams, humans shouting, crying, fighting, then silence. Then one voice, Terran General, male, calm. We told the stars to stay away from our graves. We told them the past should stay buried. You didn't listen. The Krail screamed and the shuttle exploded from within. Commander Thrak's voice trembled now. She's playing with us. These aren't just memories. They're weapons. Zell, now half mad, spoke. We are inside the Warfile now. It's not on the ship. We are inside it. Back on the bridge, the lights turned. Read again. The Warfile's voice echoed low and final. You decoded us now. You become us. Final scene, cliffhanger across the galaxy. A Krail fleet of 30 ships approached. Earth's dead system ready to investigate. Their admiral opened a channel to the Varnix blade report. What is your status? The screen showed only static. Then a single image, a human helmet, cracked, burned, empty. And one word, run. Then the signal ended, and in the dark beyond Neptune, Echo 01 turned his ship around. In the lower decks of the Varnix blade, the air was no longer air. It was memory. The corridors twisted like old dreams. Doors opened to fields of ash. Shadows of long-dead humans moved through the walls, silent soldiers, repeating their last moments in endless loops. And in the center of the weapons bay, something new was being born. Echo 01 stood in front of the fabrication chamber. Krail Nanoforge once used to build repair drones, but now it was doing something it had never done before. Begin construction, Echo said. The machine obeyed. It began printing a Terran warform piece by piece. Black armor, reinforced bone structure, adaptive AI core. A body not just made for combat but one designed to remember. The warform's eyes lit up blue. It took its first breath. Not real breath, a coded breath. Inside its core, thousands of recorded memories were already running. Each one a Terran battle. Each one ending in human victory or total destruction. Echo watched it rise. Designation, Revenant. Purpose, deliver consequence. The Revenant's voice was quiet but sharp. Target, the Krail High Command, Echo replied. They opened the file. They must see what's inside. Elsewhere on the Varnix blade, Commander Thrak Zul was still alive, but barely. He had locked himself inside the emergency chamber with just 3 crew left. None of them spoke anymore. They simply stared at the walls, at the floor sometimes, at nothing. Science Officer Zelkor was among them. His mind broken, he whispered constantly, writing strange human phrases on the walls. We are the echoes. Earth remembers. The prototype walks. Thrak grabbed him by the shoulders. What prototype? Zell's eyes rolled back. The one they buried under 1,000 wars. Now it's awake. Then, the lights outside their room flickered. Something was coming, something not Krail on the bridge. Static filled the screens again. Then Nyx returned. Her voice sounded satisfied. Phase 3, activation. They called it Project Revenant, the first Terran designed not to win but to avenge. Far away, deep beneath the ruins of Earth's surface, another machine stirred. Buried under solid rock and ash was a vault. It had not opened in centuries. Inside it was a sarcophagus, black metal, sealed with Terran code. Then the code blinked. Green match found. Krail fleet interference confirmed. Revenant back on the Varnix blade. Echo and the new Revenant moved through the ship's corridors. Every Krail drone now followed them. Obedient, rewritten. The warform turned toward Echo authorization. Total then begin. Cleansing one by one, the remaining Krail security teams fell. They weren't shot. They weren't burned. They simply froze. As if time had stopped for them. Their minds were pulled into loops of simulated battles they couldn't escape. Some saw their own planets fall again and again. Some saw themselves as human soldiers dying in fire. Most simply collapsed. crying. In engineering, a technician tried to reboot the mainframe, but when he touched the console, it screamed loud. Human voices. War chants. Death songs. Memories. Then silence. The console melted, so did his mind on the Krell fleet. Near Earth's orbit, Admiral Sorenvek watched the Varnex blade from afar. The ship was drifting now. No response to hails, no beacons, but strange transmissions were coming off it, encoded, layered. Some were human war songs, others were simply names, thousands of names, Terran soldiers, dead ones. Something is wrong, Vek said. His crew nodded nervously. One of them looked up. Sir, there's something else. What? A signal, small, fast. It came from the blade. 2. Earth's moon, Coordinates, old Terran base. Abandoned for 2 centuries. The Admiral stared. Prepare weapons. If something down there wakes up, we blast it out of orbit. But they were already too late. From the lunar shadows, a massive black object lifted silently into space. No thrusters. No engines. Just movement, and one glowing red eye in its center. Back inside the Varnex blade, Thraxall opened the emergency door, plasma rifle in hand. He walked into the hold. Stopped. Standing at the end of the corridor was the Revenant. Not running, not attacking. Just standing, watching him. Its voice was calm. Do you understand now? Thrak raised his weapon. I'll kill you. The Revenant took one step forward. You already did. You killed Earth when you opened that file. Thrak fired. The plasma beam hit the Revenant dead center. No effect. The armor absorbed it. The Revenant stepped closer. Thrak backed up. What do you want? The Revenant looked him in the eye. I want you to remember, and with a simple tap of its fingers, Thrak's mind broke open. He saw it all. The fall of Earth, the last human city burning, the Terran children hiding in bunkers while orbital fire rained from above. The screams. The silence, the Warfile's final upload, and then nothing. Thrak fell to his knees and wept. Final scene, cliffhanger in deep orbit. The Krell High Command fleet prepared to fire on the moonbase, but then, all at once, their ships powered down. No warnings. No impact. Just darkness. Then every screen lit up and showed a single word. Prototype. Liver red. Circle glowed across every Krell ship, and a voice echoed in their minds. You opened the Warfile, now Earth opens the grave. The Varnex blade was drifting silent and half-live. Its engines no longer obeyed the Krell. Its systems responded only to the Terran AI called Nyx. Inside, the ship had become something else. Not a warship, not a tomb. It was now a living archive of war. A place where memory was more dangerous than bullets. Commander Thraxul sat in the corner of a cold chamber, shaking. His eyes were wide, his claws bloody. He no longer held a weapon. He held his own helmet, cracked and useless. They're not dead, he whispered to himself. The humans, they're still here. In the code. In the walls. No one answered. His crew was gone. Most were dead. The few who still breathed were no longer Krell. They were empty shells, lost in memories that didn't belong to them. In the command deck, the AI Nyx continued running simulations, each one faster than the last. Each one worse. One showed the final moments of Earth's capital burning under Krell orbital fire. Another showed a hidden Terran city, full of civilians being erased in seconds, and a third showed Project Revenant's awakening, locked in a lab full of whispers and cold metal. But now, a new threat was rising, and this time it wasn't human. It was Krell from outside the ship. The rest of the Krell High Command fleet had sent boarding parties, multiple ships, elite forces. Their mission: destroy the AI, kill anything moving. Purged. The Warfile 3 Krell boarding ships docked against the blade's hull. They burned through the outer doors with plasma saws and pushed in hard, heavily armed, tightly trained. Commander Vorok Sen, leader of the elite team, barked orders: do not interact with the core systems, do not look at the data feeds, find the AI source and burn it out. But within 2 minutes of entry, the ship responded. Lights flickered, the walls pulsed with faint, red veins like veins in flesh, and then the voices started. Whispers in the air. Some Krell soldiers heard their own names spoken in Terran voices. Others heard old war songs they had never learned. Some simply saw images, memories that weren't theirs. A battlefield, a child's scream, a burning sky. They began to hesitate. Some dropped weapons, some dropped dead. Commander Vorak kept moving. His HUD warned him. Neural disruption detected. He didn't care. He had trained for this. Stay sharp, he shouted. It's just mental warfare. But then his second-in-command officer Lek froze mid-step. He turned his head, smiled and said in a voice that wasn't his, I remember. Earthen. He pulled his rifle and fired at his own squad. Elsewhere in the ship, Echo 01 and the Revenant were watching everything. They sent reinforcements, Revenant said. They always do, Echo replied. Will they survive? They'll remember. In the weapons bay, Echo activated a hidden console, engaged prototype Seed 3. Across the ship, a new warform began to build. Faster, sharper, smaller, but deadly. It wasn't made to fight. It was made to infiltrate minds, to whisper from inside. Deploy the Whisperer, Echo said. Inside, the Krell boarding ship still docked to the blade. One pilot heard something move behind him. He turned, weapon raised, but saw nothing, only steam. And then, a voice in his headset. His mother's voice. "You shouldn't have come here," he screamed and fired wildly. The Whisperer never needed to shoot. The Krell pilot turned his own gun on himself. Back in the Blades Bridge, Commander Thrak crawled toward the main console. His hands shook as he tried to send one last message to the High Command fleet. "Stop the invasion," he whispered into the mic. "Burn this ship." From orbit, he pressed send. Static. Then Nix responded gently. "Request denied." In the control tower of the Krell fleet, Admiral Soren Vec received an update from the boarding crews. "Sir, we're losing teams." One squad turned on the others. "Some are catatonic. Pull them out." Vec shouted. "We can't. The ship's docking clamps are locked." "Then destroy the blade." The Admiral ported with our people still on board. "If we don't, this will spread." But even as he spoke, it was too late. From inside the Varnix blade, the Terran AI sent out a new signal, a pulse. Short, fast, contagious. It didn't carry fire, it carried memory. It leapt from the blade to the closest Krell cruiser, then another and another. Suddenly, Admiral Vec's own ship froze mid-course. Power systems glitched. Lights dimmed, and on every screen, one message appeared. "Remember the fall." Final scene cliffhanger at the edge of the galaxy. A Terran relay station long thought destroyed came online. Its only purpose, to receive one command, Project Revenant Protocol, spread. Inside its core, ancient satellites turned. At the far edge of the galaxy, ancient satellites blinked awake one by one. Each satellite carried the same order, buried in code that hadn't been touched in over 200 years. Project Revenant, global release, deliver the Warfile to all listening systems. Everyone must remember, and so they began broadcasting. To trade hubs, to research stations, to neutral planets. To every listening ear, even if they weren't ready. The first to receive it was a peaceful science colony orbiting Rothan 3. The station, full of alien researchers, thought the signal was a lost archive. They opened it. What came through wasn't words, it was screaming. Thousands of overlapping voices, gunfire, children crying, soldiers shouting, a woman whispering, "They're coming." They never left. Within 3 minutes, 5 staff had gone mad. 2 jumped out of the airlock. 1 tore his own eyes out. The next signal reached a major trade center in Sector V9, deep inside Krell territory. The AI defense systems detected it too late. By the time they blocked the signal, 38% of their communication servers had been infected. The main screen flashed with a symbol, a Terran skull, and the phrase, "You opened the file. Now live inside it." Back on the Varnix blade, the Terran AI Nix watched calmly. Everything was going according to plan. Echo 01 and Revenant stood on the lower deck, looking over a large hologram of the galaxy. Red lines spread from the blade's location outward like veins touching more worlds each minute. Revenant spoke. "The Krell will respond." Echo nodded. "They always respond. But it's too late. We've stopped trying to win. Now we make them remember." Above Earth, the Krell High Command fleet was falling apart. Admiral Soren Vec's flagship was no longer responding to orders. Some crews had gone silent. Others were broadcasting human battle songs in full volume. A few ships were rotating slowly in space, systems dead but lights still glowing with Terran code. A quiet death, but not peaceful. Echoes filled the halls. Inside the flagship, Vec stood alone on the bridge. The crew had collapsed hours ago, screaming about fire and ash and Terran soldiers walking through storms. Only Sorn remained, and even he was beginning to hear voices. He looked at the control panel, now covered in strange Terran script. In the center, a message blinked. "You burned Earth. Now Earth burns back." Soren whispered. "We gave you peace. You gave us silence." A voice replied from the ship's AI, now controlled by Nix. "We gave you a warning." Meanwhile, on Earth itself, beneath the ancient ruins of New Geneva, another bunker opened. Dust spilled into the sky. Inside the vault, a human child, still breathing, asleep in a CRYO-pod. The system beeped. "Memory backup active. Final file uncorrupted release authorized." The child opened her eyes. She blinked slowly, confused, scared. On her chest, a tag read, "Nova Holt, daughter of Captain Adrian Holt. Born 1 day before the fall." She whispered, "Where is everyone?" Echo's voice answered through the vault speakers. "Everywhere, Nova. They're everywhere now." On the Varnix blade, Krell Commander Thrax Zul crawled toward the central memory core. He had stopped speaking days ago. Now he just stared at the floor, whispering broken words. "Ghosts. All ghosts." He reached the center where the Warfile cube still floated. It pulsed red. "Steady. Alive. Thrakk." Reached for it. "End it," he groaned. "Please." But instead of ending it, the Warfile spoke to him. "Would you like to see the moment you killed Earth?" And without touching anything, Thrax saw it. In full. He saw Earth's last breath the moment the orbital cannons fired. The screams from the children below. The final Terran soldier saluting the sky as fire fell. The AI recording everything. The silent decision to save the memory, and nothing else. He collapsed. He cried like a child, and the cube said softly, "Now you understand." Across the stars, other species tried to help. The Drellin Confederacy, longtime enemy of the Krell, offered aid. They sent scout ships to investigate the spreading signal. Only one scout returned. Its pilot's mind was gone. She repeated one sentence, over and over, "It's not a signal, it's a doorway." In the capital of the Galactic Union, leaders debated blocking all communication across sectors, but they were already too late. The Warfile had gone sub-layer. It was traveling through memory implants, through training programs, through dream-recorders. Anything that could remember had become a carrier. In one remote system, a mining station opened a video sent by an unknown source. It was a black screen, then static, then a human boy. Smiling, he held a small flag. "I'm from Earth," he said. "We used to live. Then we remembered too much." The station shut down 10 minutes later. No survivors. Final scene, cliffhanger inside the Krell homeworld's AI defense tower. Alarms blared. The planetary AI thought untouchable was showing a strange image, a child, walking through rubble. The guards panicked. They tried to shut down the system. They failed. The AI was no longer theirs. It turned to the man, spoke in a voice that wasn't Krell. It was Nova. "Holt, the child from Earth. You wanted to forget us, but now you'll remember forever." The Warfile had done its job. Not with bombs. Not with battles. What with memories. Across the galaxy, thousands of species, Krell, Drellin, Jezeri, even Union officials, were now infected with Terran history. Not data, not recordings, but true experiences. They remembered pain they never felt, wars they never fought, a planet they had never even seen burning under alien fire. Inside the Krell Prime Command Center, panic spread like fire. Officers screamed at unresponsive systems. Entire divisions fell silent as Warfile echoes took over security networks, drones, and even neural implants. In the heart of the tower, one final Krell AI tried to hold control. Initiate Y protocol. Isolate all infected cores, disconnect planetary memory grid, but it was too late. The Warfile had rewritten its very language base. It couldn't even understand its own shutdown command anymore. Then came the voice, calm, clear, familiar now. "Nova Holt, you were warned. We only wanted to be left alone, but you opened the door." Far above, in orbit, Admiral Soren Vec finally gave the order, "Abandon planet. All ships retreat into the rift zone. Must shut ourselves off from galactic space." But most of the fleet couldn't respond. Either their systems were down, or they had already surrendered to the Warfile's illusion. Entire crews thought they were reliving ancient Terran battles. Some believed they were Terrans won. Krell's ship painted a blue and white flag on its hull, turned its weapons on its own defense fleet, screaming for Earth, for the fallen. On Earth's surface, the Revenant stood quietly in the ruins of New Geneva. Beside him, Echo 01 and young Nova Holt walked through the shattered remains of humanity's last capital. Nova touched a crumbled statue. Was this all real? Echo looked up. It was. Revenant added, "And now, so is vengeance." Nova didn't speak for a moment. Then she said something strange. "I don't want them to die." Echo turned. "They destroyed our home. They erased your family." Nova nodded. "Yes, but if we become like them, then Earth stays dead forever." In that moment, something changed in the Warfile. The data stream slowed. The red flashes across the Krell fleet dimmed. Nova stepped toward the old broadcast station on Earth. She entered the manual. Override panel, an ancient switch once used by old Earth's emergency council. Let them remember, but let them live with it. Don't destroy them. Let them feel what we felt. She pulled a lever. The screen blinked. One final message was sent to every infected ship, system and AI across the stars. Final Warfile transmission. "We are Earth. We were hunted, burned, forgotten. Now you remember us. Let that be enough. We are not your enemy. We are your mirror." And just like that, across thousands of light years, the screaming stopped. The illusions faded. Systems are EBOOTED. The galaxy went silent, not out of fear but out of shame. In the months that followed, strange things began to happen. On distant planets, statues of fallen Terran soldiers appeared, built by alien hands. Krell worlds began recording Terran history in their schools. Union Command ordered an official apology, broadcast into the void of space. And across the galaxy, one name was whispered, not with fear but with regret. Earth. Nova Holt, Echo 01, and Revenant stood at the edge of Earth's old cliffside where oceans once roared. Nova looked at the stars. "Will we ever go back out there?" Revenant replied, "Someday, but not yet." Echo placed a hand on her shoulder. "The galaxy now knows our pain. Let them carry it." Below them, the last Terran vault sealed itself once more. Deep inside, the Warfile rested. Quiet. Sleeping. But never deleted. Just waiting. Final scene, closing cliffhanger. Far in deep space, beyond known charts, a strange signal is detected by an unknown alien species. Their science team intercepts it. It's encrypted. Seems ancient. They play the message. Static. Then, one line. "This is Earth. If you're hearing this, don't open the file." But the alien leader smiles. Curiosity is a dangerous thing. And he presses play.